You just became the several millionth person to reach somewhere over 9,000 subscribers. What are you going to do next? Great question. I'm going to have my team open a money pit somewhere and they're going to put my face all over it. Oh. Why? Huh. Great question. Why do so many famous people keep dumping money into self-branded businesses when doing so seems to have a long history of failing? Based on the data that I collected while researching this video, roughly 37% of celebrity businesses survive past the 5-year mark compared to the 50% of normal small businesses. And once you get to 10 years, that number drops to just 18% compared to the usual 35%. So why the hell are they always opening things? And before you put your arguing gloves on, I recognize that there are business ventures that work for the rich and famous. But I'm not talking about expanding into a product line or becoming the paid face of a brand like Shaq every 5 minutes. I mean when they open a brick and mortar business and have it branded entirely around themselves. I've thought long and hard about this question, and I've come to what I think is a pretty satisfying answer. They've been doing this since the inception of the idea of celebrity, and the way it's evolved is actually pretty interesting. Some notable early examples would be like how playwright William Shakespeare was part owner of the Globe Theatre, or like how American stage performer Edwin Booth, yes, also owned a theater, no. As celebrity shifted, this trend went with it, and by the early 1900s, theater was out, and athletes took up the practice. Jack Dempsey, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, and countable others all had connections to local institutions offering the promise of maybe brushing shoulders with your favorite great-for-the-time athlete. With a few detours, this went on until the 90s when the whole idea exploded into collaborative efforts, save for Hulk Hogan's Pastamania, which was all him, and his army of little Pastamaniacs. Planet Hollywood, Fashion Cafe, Kenny Rogers Roasters, the 90s was absolutely booming with these things, and right as it was getting good, and the new millennium was just getting started under the watchful eye of President George W. Bush, tragedy. The celebrity franchise bubble had burst, and everything was about to change considerably. Which brings us to now, kind of, the 21st century, where celebrities are richer, weirder, and more separated from us normies than they have ever been. With these developments, their businesses kind of stopped being real financial investments and instead became something more cultural. A physical manifestation of the person to make us feel like they are human. I just want to give back to my community, they say, to advertise a $30 entree in an Instagram wall. Look, I stood here once. Don't you want to as well, also? But to be fair, there's different levels to this, and some of them are better than others, so I've broken them up into 4 categories. Am I facing the right way? Happy rich coincidences, architectural merch, hometown clubhouse, and finally, freak shit. The least interesting and safest of these is definitely happy rich coincidences. Establish local institutions that for one reason or another are at risk of closing but get saved by a famous person with local ties. While not directly built to worship the figure they're attached to, these definitely lean heavily into the connection. It's the type of thing Ellen would have had Steve Carell on to talk about when she was still doing things like that. Oh, look at that.
I learned today that you own a general store.
Yeah.
In Massachusetts.
We do, yeah.
This is by far the most approachable of these business types, and they really are a net positive for their communities. So, good. Great. Reports claim that he pops in every now and then to do some customer service tourism, and, again, fine. These are relatively common as far as celebrity businesses go, and they're treated more as a form of charity than a branding opportunity. But make no mistake, they are absolutely a branding opportunity. Just look at Paul Rudd and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who co-own a candy shop together. They bought this place over a decade ago, and even today there's articles being written about how it was at risk of closing following the death of the original owner. But a couple of nice guys who were so down to earth bought it and saved it for everyone. Look at them behind the counter. Maybe they really are just like us. Jokes aside, really, I don't have an issue with this. In fact, I like it. I just want to demonstrate that this tier has the best possible return reputationally. They can be less profitable than their general industry with a few limitations, but they're some of the most humanizing businesses that these people can own. And the PR far outweighs any money lost. Though combined with the fact that should it close, that PR will shift to rich fuck abandoned small town by closing their beloved general store, also kind of a prison. Like I said, kind of a boring but useful investment opportunity. Unlike the rest of these. Architectural merch is pretty branding forward and has some of the widest gaps in terms of successes and failures. With few exceptions, these come around during career peaks as a way of planting a flag that says, I recognize I can't sustain this level of cultural relevance forever and need to get everything out there right now before it looks like I'm doing it because I need the money. They have to be profitable because they're usually majority owned by actual business people who shouldn't be touching celebrity businesses either. Just by including some serious outliers in the averages, they have the shortest lifespan. Take Flavor Flav's fried chicken, for example. Its one and only location was in Clinton, Iowa for some reason, and opened January 24th of 2011, but would permanently close just 3 months later. Now, Flavor Flav did go to culinary school and has restaurant experience, so you'd think he's set up for some success. Yet it took just 3 months for him to back out of Flavor Flav's fried chicken, citing disagreements with his restaurateur partner. There's theories about this having been like money laundering or something, but I don't care to get into any of that. Either way, it ended with both parties deflecting blame as much as possible. And I'm not here to pick sides, but I trust Flavor Flav unconditionally. His business partner accused him of never being around, but also said that they were burning through $14,000 a day because Flav demanded they change the fryer oil out every hour. Which is it? Is Flavor Flav micromanaging, or is he not managing? It cannot be both. Another fun one here would be Channing Tatum's Saints and Sinners, but only because the research on it led me to finding this picture of him in this outfit. And also because he tried to make a reality TV show about it, which would have been awesome, but the pilot never released publicly. The search for this unreleased pilot sent me down a rabbit hole that ended with another celebrity-owned business that did kind of have a TV show though. Ludacris's Chicken and Beer, named for his double platinum album, opened at the peak of his film career alongside Furious 7. It's in the world's busiest airport, so it definitely has a good opportunity for success based on that alone. And make no mistake, it is successful. But I cannot and will not attribute the strengths of this restaurant to Ludacris, because I've seen his show, Luda Can't Cook, where this man always looks like it's Sunday night and he keeps remembering that he has to go to work in the morning, and also tells us that he cannot cook.
I thought the nutrients were in the skins.
This show has been wiped from the internet, but I am obsessed with what I can find of it. Ludacris has the nervous energy of a whippet in a thunderstorm, and I too am shaking at the prospect of making a whole video about this show. But let's get back on track. The Hometown Clubhouse is by far the most common of these ventures. They're typically owned, at least primarily, by the celebrity's management because it's more for them than anyone else. Drake's Pick 6, Jay-Z's 40/40 Club, Justin Timberlake's Southern Hospitality, and MGK's 27 Club are just a handful of examples here. They're just a hometown guarantee, a place where the celebrity knows they'll be celebrated rather than just tolerated. I think this is the only kind of celebrity business that I personally have ever been to, because I used to MC the coffee tastings at 27 Club. It was alright, but that really doesn't matter. These are just buildings to match the branding of a famous person that can be easily cleared out when they want to throw a party. Mr. Gun Kelly seemed like an alright guy based on whatever I could tell, but even if that wasn't true, I wouldn't tell you anyway, lest I end up on the diss track list like the owner of Mom's Spaghetti in Detroit. A weird trend for this category is the way they close, though. More often than not, it follows this very specific and short roadmap of celebrities stop showing up and then the business closes suddenly by just not paying the rent. Like how your dad probably got really into bowling for a little while, bought custom shoes and a custom ball, and then just never went bowling again. And now he's like really into eBay or something. I don't know. The novelty wears off just kind of out of nowhere for these people and they just abandon it. Which finally brings us to the greatest category of them all, freak shit. Freak shit's when a celebrity opens a business because the other ones aren't being very nice to them due to their own behavior. These share the unique trait of relentlessly explaining why they exist while also contradicting that reason in just about every way imaginable. Rules for the not for me echo chambers where the result is just really funny. The best of them, at least to me, is Kid Rock's big-ass honky-tonk rock and roll steakhouse. If you're not aware of who Kid Rock is, imagine a water cooler full of Busch Light that can kind of talk, and you've got Kid Rock. While he initially started this during the Nashville boom of celebrity bar concert venues, it almost immediately became a safe space for Kid Rock specifically. Following a drunken rant against Oprah Winfrey, the American Badass was demoted to Cadillac Pussy, pulled from the stage of his own bar by his own security. So much for the tolerant big-ass honky-tonk rock and roll steakhouse, am I right? Can't say shit around here. This incident and a history of similar ones resulted in his hometown of Detroit distancing themselves from Kid Rock. And he took this about as well as you'd expect, adopting the tagline, "Go where you're celebrated, not tolerated," which is the most divorced dad shit I have ever heard in my entire life. Lick your wounds a little more publicly, dude, Jesus. Kid Rock is very committed to his political beliefs, and his bar is the perfect stage to practice what he preaches without risk of cancellation from the woke bi-coastal elites. Like a lot of dudes who look like this, he was quick to boycott Bud Light during that time when people decided something was a huge fucking deal, but also chose to continue serving it in his bars. He's also known for his strong opinions on undocumented immigrants, even though the big-ass honky-tonk rock and roll steakhouse relies so heavily on that exact demographic for labor that they had to close down due to staffing shortages while an ICE raid was happening in the area. Don't worry though, he very conveniently has nothing to do with the day-to-day operations, even though it seems to tone shift at a moment's notice anytime anyone says anything mean about him. It's not me, guys, it's this other hypocrite I've partnered with. I don't make the decisions that people make fun of us for. I only make the cool decisions, like big belt buckle above the bar, or putting my cutest outfit in this little box. Speaking of hypocrites, I'm going to beat a dead horse here. Joe Rogan. Right now, there are probably 4 billion videos being uploaded to YouTube every day about Joe Rogan, so I'm going to blitz through this as to not be too redundant. Joe Rogan's comedy mothership was opened in response to an ever-oppressive cancel culture in comedy that somehow only impacts people who aren't very funny to begin with. It's meant to be a safe haven for comedians who have been blacklisted by other clubs, much like Joe, who was banned from the Comedy Store like 20 years ago for violating their policy around filming. The event deeply impacted the way Joe runs the comedy mothership, enacting the very same policy that he was victimized by all those years ago. A policy he violated while accusing Carlos Mencia of joke theft, something that I guess is no longer a big deal since he invited canceled comedian Roseanne Barr to perform, despite her being guilty of the most embarrassing form of joke theft imaginable.
Well, I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
My pronouns are kiss my ass.
Stealing a joke from Ted Cruz. Listen, I know comedy is subjective. We might not agree on what's funny. But we can probably agree on what and who is not funny, right? Ted Cruz.
How about we all come together and say, let's stop attacking pedophiles?
But hey, it's the Wild West of comedy. The mothership is an uncancelable safe haven for him and his equally unfunny friends. But they're really not scoffing in the face of woke Hollywood, are they? They're just hiding from it, which implies they're still very concerned about being canceled. It's the business equivalent of softly slamming your bedroom door and whisper screaming at your mom, hoping she doesn't hear you swear under your breath from downstairs. They have a strict dress code, you have to lock your phone and smartwatch up, and when the club first opened, they would take pictures of guests to add to a social credit score database, something they stopped doing once people made fun of them for it. Which to me kind of just sounds like they're bending to cancel culture, right? But it's fine. Because as I understand, this is largely retaliatory. The comedy mothership is just a place for comedians to go, see, how does it feel to be silenced, sheeple? But the woke cancel culture Twitter people that you hate aren't going to see Kill Tony, because it's not funny. These are your people, and you're limiting their freedoms, Joe. You're trying to punish the people who aren't interested in the comedians that you platform by punishing the people who are interested in the comedians that you platform. Lame. I know I said there were only 4 categories of these, but I did leave one out because it's incredibly unique. Remember that percentage I shared earlier in my very dry intro? Well, I excluded almost all of the Nashville honky-tonks because they are on a whole different level. When you include these in the original calculations, celebrity business success rates jump from 37% to 50%. Completely in line with the standard. In order for it to jump that much, these country artist venues have to have a 5-year success rate of like 85%, which brings me to the conclusion that of the celebrity class, only country artists should be opening businesses. Which is why I've decided against opening the Dan's Fine Thanks, Raw Milk, and Free Speech Emporium. I am not a country artist, and it's not worth the financial risk. You know what? You're right. Not a good idea. Hey, is Hulk Hogan Italian? Huh. Yep. Hulk Hogan is a little bit Italian, yeah. Yeah, he is, kinda.